In the Writer's Chair, candid conversations about the writing life with Lana McCara and Vandella Publishing.
Welcome to In the Writer's Chair, where we pull up a chair to talk about writing craft, the writing life, and what's possible for writers right now. I'm your host, Lana McCara, and today I'm delighted to welcome Michele DeFilippo to the broadcast. Michele has held various roles in the book publishing industry since 1972. Today she owns 1106 Design, a full-service editorial and design firm that helps authors publish top-quality books and maximize revenue on every sale. All services are delivered with integrity, personal advice, and all the hand-holding authors require. To learn more, visit www.1106design.com. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you so much for having me, Lana. I appreciate it.
Well, you've seen a lot since 1972.
That's for sure.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about what it was like when you started and then what Amazon did and bring us up to today. I'm really interested in the history of this.
Well, thank you. When I started, it was actually before computers were in the workplace. So that it's almost hard to remember or even figure out how we actually got anything done in those days. But books were put together manually. We would order the typesetting from a company that used what they called hot metal type, and they actually cast the pages and the text in hot lead, melted lead, and then printed strips of paper with that impression. And then we would paste up those strips of paper into book form where we wanted the pages to break and where we wanted the chapters to start and so forth. And just, it was a very laborious process. But that's how it was done in those days. And so, yeah, I've seen a lot of not only technological changes, but also quality changes, right? Back in the day when I started, books were considered a work of art, and everyone involved in the process of creating a book was dedicated to that, to make the book the very best it could be. And there was no such thing as a bad publisher like there is today. And there was no such thing as lousy work, which is endemic today. And so that's why I started doing these podcasts to talk about that a little bit, so authors know what they should be looking for.
Yes. And what happened when Amazon came on the scene?
Amazon was an earthquake, of course, as you know. Back before Amazon, authors had to work with a publisher. There was no other way to get distribution into bookstores. And so Amazon changed all that. All of a sudden, the door was wide open, and anybody who wanted to publish a book could distribute it themselves without the assistance of a publisher. Now, that sounded like a great thing. And in the beginning it was, because authors were similarly dedicated to quality, like you and I are. But then along the line, things changed a little bit, and all of a sudden, some players came into the industry who were not dedicated to quality and not dedicated to serving authors, and they've basically created an avalanche of terrible books in the marketplace, and that has given self-publishing a bad name.
Yes, I know. I saw a statistic recently. Maybe you can talk to this a little bit. That 1 million books a year are being published by AI, and then 2 million or more are published by actual human beings. But even of that human beings publishing, there's so many people who just speak a book out and they put the transcript into book form. It isn't edited. It's just,
I know,
a lot of words. Yeah.
It's remarkable, isn't it? I mean, and I think I, of course, do a lot of thinking about this, and I think that there are a lot of people who think of a book as a business, and which it rightly is, right? You have to, if you're in business, you have to give a good product to your consumer. Otherwise, you're just fooling yourself if you think consumers are going to buy poor quality merchandise, or in this case, books. But then there are many people who just buy like a consumer and not like a business owner, and so they are sometimes inadvertently taken in by the low price promise, by the promises of a bestseller. I know you've seen that, and it's not a real bestseller. I talk to an agent, regularly, and he told me that a bestseller is a book that sells 10,000 copies in the last week. That's a bestseller, but nowadays a bestseller, people are claiming to be best-selling authors, and what they've done is they've tricked Amazon's algorithm into putting a bestseller badge on their book page, but it's not real, right? But I think people know it's not real, so I don't understand why it persists.
Yes, to the tricking the algorithm thing is just absolutely incredible. I see it as so unethical. You can trick Amazon with less than 100 books to become a bestseller.
Yeah. And that bestseller badge will show up for about 45 minutes or so. If you do that, you get 100 people to buy your book within a half an hour time frame. And so the computer says, oh, this is a bestseller. But that badge goes away after a while, but not before the author can grab a screenshot and put it on all of their promotional materials.
Yes.
So,
yes.
It's an unfortunate game. Let's put it that way. And it's disturbing to anyone who cares about quality publishing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I published my first book in 1996, I was writing through the 80s and into the 90s before I got published. In those days, you couldn't do anything if a publisher didn't say yes, because they were checking the quality, they were checking your writing style, and then the book was was well done. It was looked after.
Yeah, and the reason they did it was because they understood that consumers recognize the difference between a good book and a terrible book, right? So everyone in the process was dedicated to quality, including back in those days. My typesetting business started in 1980, and we typeset many, many books for publishers and magazines and so forth. And everyone cared about making it the very best it could be. And now technology has kind of changed that. There are people who are offering layout software to authors that doesn't even begin to implement the quality standards of traditional typesetting. But again, it's cheap, it's free. You don't have to pay one of those evil designers to work on your book, and so that's where we are today. It's unfortunate because the book suffers.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And your reputation, the author's reputation, or whoever, they put it out with, that reputation suffers because there's a lot of people involved in the publication. There's the author, the editor, whatever publication channel that they use, and so forth. And, I don't want my name on something that people look at and go, wow, this is terrible.
Yeah. Well, that kind of plays into me to integrity, right? The customer of a business doesn't necessarily need to know about the business, right? But it's the professional's job, I think, to deliver a good product to that customer. And that integrity has kind of waned quite a bit, at least in the publishing industry, maybe in other industries too. And now it seems like there are people that go into business because they saw a huge opportunity. There's a lot of authors out there. What are those authors looking for? And if it's something less than perfect, we're willing to give it to them to meet their price point. And so it's giving publishing a bad name, because when the professionals were always dedicated to quality, the consumer could count on a great book. Right? You never had to wonder, is this going to be a great book or is this going to be a piece of junk? Now you have to wonder, unless you're purchasing from a major publisher, or a legitimate small press. Now it's like you have no guarantee whatsoever whether this book is going to be any good.
Yes, absolutely. Which is why, the major publishers like Simon and Schuster and those are still selling quite well because people trust the quality of what they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
So when you mention cost, and I know this is a big concern for authors, are professional editing and design services expensive?
Yes, they are, because they're very time consuming tasks, right? Um, editing, of course, takes careful consideration and concentration and thought. Yes, you can find software to do it, but it's not going to be the same as the judgment of a human editor. And the same with typesetting. Real typesetting standards, book design standards are also very time consuming tasks. Each book, each genre has to have a different design pitch to it so that it looks like it belongs in the genre. And then down to the nitty gritty typesetting, people have forgotten the standards. I'll give you one example that surprises a lot of people. When we're typesetting a name with a middle initial, sometimes the software will break that middle initial to the next line. Well, we don't let that stand, right? Because that's distracting to the reader. So we will take that extra step and we will make sure the first name and the middle initial stay together. And so there's maybe 50 things like that typesetters do as a matter of course, so the reader is not distracted, that they can concentrate on the message of the book. But that's going by the wayside these days.
Yes, it is, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cost is something that, let's talk about that just a little bit because I am an editor and I know that people sometimes choke when I tell them 5 cents or 6 cents a word. I like to look at the book and give them a number at that point because I can get an idea of how much time it's going to take me.
Mm-hmm.
And so at 5 cents a word, a 50,000 word book is going to be $2,500. If it's 6 cents, it's going to be 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
People may say, "Oh, wow, that is a lot." There's even more to it than that because the 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 cost isn't just for the 40 hours or the 50 hours that you're going to put into that. It is 3 decades of experience.
That's exactly correct. Yes.
Yes. How do you put a price on that?
Well, it's just a matter of sticking to your guns and deciding I'm not going to give poor quality, and I want to work with people who appreciate the top quality and the attention to detail, right? I have authors coming to us all the time who say, my manuscript is clean. It doesn't need much editing. And then, and then they see what an editor does with it and they're just overwhelmed. It's like, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. I had no idea.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, and that's true of the design and typesetting and proofreading stages as well. Yes, you wrote a book. Yes, it's a good book. Yes, you have writing talent, but there's an extra level that has to be offered to the consumer. And that's what the professionals do.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And you said something wonderful there where you want to deliver the quality that even the author doesn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because sloppy editors have a tendency to cut corners and deliver good enough
Yeah.
because the author doesn't really know all the background stuff that's going on
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. So that finding an editor that is willing to take the care and the time to deliver that excellence, that's really a treasure
Yeah.
because yeah.
And the issue is, if you spent, as most of the authors we talk with do, if you've spent months or years writing your book, don't you want to package it? I mean, let's call what we do packaging, right? The editing, the design, the cover, and the final product. That's what the consumer is going to get, right? Especially with cover design, they're going to make that judgment based on that first impression. And even with the reading, the reader is going to know within a couple of paragraphs, first paragraphs that they read, whether or not this might be a really good book, right? You've got to grab them.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just so important, and I hope it does. It's not forgotten, because it would be terrible if it was completely forgotten.
Yes, it's our culture. It's our culture. Yeah. And I think that can't be emphasized enough. The other piece of it is, for the authors listening, are you wanting to appear to be a career-driven author like Nicholas Sparks or Tom Clancy or one of those old guys, that you would take the care that they took? Because what I find in the publishing world is the difference between someone who is just on the fringes begging to get in and someone who's in the main line is the quality of the book. Not the writing. The writing's good. But there's a lot of good writers out there that don't make the grade. Why? The editing and the other parts of creating that product. So it is a 5-star product.
Mm-hmm. And I think there are two different approaches that people. For example, when a business owner sets out to do something, he may delegate the task to someone on his staff and say, "Find out for me, what is it going to cost to do this well?" Right? That's a business owner's approach. Consumer approach is different. Sometimes it's this is how much I want to spend. Let me go find somebody who will meet that budget. And you can guess which one is going to get the best results. So, and I tell authors, you may not make your money back. You may not. But if you go to market with a top quality book, then at least you did everything you possibly could to give yourself the best chance of success. But if you go to market with an amateurish book or a poor quality book, then what? Then you don't know. Was my budget too low? Was my writing not good enough? Were people simply not interested? You will never know. And you will never know how many sales you missed because people did not recommend the book to their circle of friends and associates. So you just need to think a little deeper sometimes.
Yes, and take yourself seriously. Take yourself seriously. You are an author, and that means something.
Yeah. And the financial aspect is a real one. I don't want to minimize that. But then if you don't have the money today, then save up till you do. The answer to I can't afford it is not to put out a lousy book. The answer is to save up until you can do it right. And
Yes.
so that your writing is made the best it can be, and that you've done your very best, right? You don't go to a job interview in cut off jeans. So you shouldn't put out a low quality book either.
I think that's a great analogy. Yeah,
maybe some people do.
Yeah. And create a body of work to, a consistency of putting out this good material and in a wonderful package. Then, the back end stuff starts happening, the speaking engagements and the other things where you can then earn back, your investment. And because it is an investment, it's an investment in a product, but it's also an investment in your reputation and standing in the community.
Sure. Well, you think about it, if you buy a product that you're disappointed in, you never forget, right? You never use that product again or that manufacturer again. So readers are the same way. They understand quality instinctively, even if they're not editors and they're not designers. They know. And if they feel they didn't get their money's worth, they're going to jump online and put a bad review out there. And
yes,
nobody should want that.
Yes, absolutely. There's something about it. I don't know that you could really identify the essence of it, but when you pick up a book that has been well done, you feel it. You literally get a feeling of, this is a good quality book I'm holding in my hand.
Yeah. Now I'm a little bit biased because my background is in design, but when I open up a book and I see beautiful typesetting right off the bat, I know this is a well done product, right? And I would advise authors to spend more time in a bookstore and looking at major publisher produced books, because sometimes if you don't compare what you can do on your desktop or what you can do with some software on your own, if you don't compare that to the way a major publisher book has been typeset, you won't recognize that there is a difference if you're only looking at your stuff.
True, true. And look at the front matter, look at the back matter. Look at how they open the story, how they close it. I encourage our authors to be aware of how other people do it. There are a couple of examples, books that I've purchased just so I can keep them beside my desk. I have a little table next to my desk, and I will pick them up and I will look at them because I just want to keep that in my mind. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a novel that I picked up in an airport bookstore, and I was so enthralled with it. It's still on my table. It's been 2 or 3 years.
One of my favorite things that writers and editors do is when they end a chapter with words that make you compel you to keep reading. That's a real skill, where you might be saying to yourself, "Oh, I'm tired. I think I'll stop," and whatever they're doing there makes you want to keep reading into the middle of the night.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if you know, Michelle, but I've written 50 books.
50. My
Yeah.
goodness. No, I did not know that.
And so one of the best things that someone could ever say in the review or to me personally is, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's literature. That's publishing.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How long does it take for all this work? I mean, it sounds like it's going to take a year or more. How
No,
long does it
not
take?
at all. Generally 4 months is a
Okay.
good time frame, from editing right to the end of the process. But it depends. Sometimes we'll get done in 3 if the author comes to us with a previously edited manuscript, and sometimes it'll be 4 years. Just depends on the author.
Okay. Um, okay, we're good. So, let's talk a little bit about what you're up to now. Have you tell us a little bit about your business, what it entails? I know it's 1106 Design, and you're located
In Phoenix.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. So, how do people find you?
Just go to 1106design.com. And if you do, you can download my little free book called Publish Like the Pros. I'm not going to give up anytime soon.
Yes, and you have something that I found intriguing, and that is maximizing your income from your books. What does that look like? I've never heard that before.
Well, you and I both remember traditional publishing, right?
Oh yeah.
And in those days, and it still exists, of course, but a traditional good publisher, what I want to call a good publisher now, will pay the expenses to produce the book, and then the author does nothing more than contribute the manuscript. The publisher takes on all the hassles of publishing, all of the hiring of the experts and so forth, and producing that good book. And then in return, the publisher, of course, gets a cut of the revenue, which is absolutely fair because the publisher made the investment. And then the author gets a royalty. But in today's not so good publishing world, there are hybrid publishers. They call themselves independent publishers, self publishing companies, whatever name they use. They charge the author to produce the book up front, and then they also take part of the revenue when the book is sold without having made any investment in the project themselves. So that's what I like to warn authors about. I'm not saying don't use a publisher. I'm saying ask the right questions, make sure that the publisher you're using is working on your behalf and not just on their own. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's why the company that I have, we give 100% of the royalties to the author.
Mm-hmm.
The The author does the work, and they need to be the ones getting the money. Yeah.
That's the same with us, and so you're actually we're similar in those terms, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the authors get the expertise that you bring to the table and that I bring to the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This is, I know a lot of times people think that writing is a solitary thing where you're in your quiet office and you're typing away, but really, writing is a team sport.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it takes a team to do anything well, really, not just writing,
Yes.
So yeah, it's important. It's important to pause and think about the level of quality that you want. It didn't used to be necessary to do that. You could count on quality from publishers, but that's not the landscape any longer. So there's a lot of people out there that are just willing to cut corners and do whatever you want, in terms of budget and so forth, and put out a bad book because they don't care if you sell it or not.
Yes, that brings me to another thing, and that is I have seen cover designers who simply take the author's idea and produce it and hand it to them. When the author is not a designer and they don't have any idea what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
authors need help from designers to bring forth a good book cover.
Absolutely, yeah. We run into that all the time, and I tell authors if the designer's first question is "What do you want?" you've picked the wrong designer, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more to it than that. You have to research current books in the genre. You have to figure out what is the book about, right? What are you trying to communicate to someone who doesn't know a thing about your book yet? And that's a process, and it's a time-consuming thing. So, there are people who don't care. What do you want means they can basically give the same idea to 50 authors and spend 20, 30 minutes on a book cover. And they're probably more profitable on the bottom line than we are. But it doesn't serve the author well.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Get a professional who's going to deliver something that jumps off the table. I mean, when you think about your book being on a table full of books, like at Barnes and Noble or whatever, and that cover is going to pop. It's going to literally pop. And that's what you want. You don't want to blend in with everything else. And only a very talented cover designer is going to know what that takes, because it's not simple.
There's a lot to know about typography and color and how the elements are arranged and the hierarchy of the elements and so forth. There's a lot to professional design that really needs to be attended to make a good cover. And from the consumer's point of view, the assessment that is a good book is pretty much subliminal, right? They're thinking, okay, that looks like a good book. Why? Why are they thinking that? Because it looks like a book that was published by a major publisher, right? So that should be the starting point before any author decides what they want for their cover. They should look, what are major publishers doing right now? What do their books look like? Because the last thing you want is for your book to look self-published. Because Amazon is not just going to show your book; they're going to show the major publisher books right beside it.
Yes.
So if you may get what you want, you may find a designer who gives you everything you want. But if your book looks self-published, then people are going to say, "I don't know, that looks risky to me. I think I better stick with the major publisher."
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Such a great conversation, Michele. I don't usually get to tinker in the, inner workings of all this stuff.
Well, thank you. It's a joy for me to talk to someone who understands the quality. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for being with us today. Thanks for pulling up a chair.